Hello there, you're watching Wilhelm Miniatures. We are more than halfway into October and I still haven't made a Sculptober video. But that changes now. The first prompt I will be following is empty, and I'm thinking about some kind of abandoned nest or a broken egg. It's very cold here right now, so the clay is very brittle and needs to be worked a lot more than usual. I made some creepy twisted hand plants for my latest Kickstarter campaign, and I'm really fond of the designs, so I think I'm going to go for something similar here. So I'm going to make like a mix of a hand and some kind of birthing pod for aliens or demons or something. Sculpting fingers is a lot of fun, and it's also very convenient because the reference is right here. Of course, my fingers are not creepy demon fingers, but just making stylized fingers that look a bit like your own fingers, it works. I also don't have a skeleton for this, which probably would have been smart, but I sometimes like to just work with the clay and not think too much about the shape before I start working. If you plan everything out, then you don't really get to feel the clay, because then you just need to fill out like the skin on top of the skeleton, or like put some flesh on the bones. But now I can move things around and remove fingers, add fingers, do things like that. I think some sort of lotus pod or something growing out from the palm of the hand would be an appropriately creepy thing. Ugh. Looks like a shower head now. The lotus thing isn't really working out for me. It's too separate from the rest. So I think I'm going to figure out something else. Of course, I had a snail shell lying on my desk, which I do, and it fits very nicely on this creature. So maybe it needs to be like a snail hand thing. It's been a while since I made a snail monster, so yeah, this doesn't have anything to do with empty anymore, but finger snail monster, an empty hole in the hand. I want a lot of textures on this hand, a lot of wrinkles and textures, and it's got a lot of surface. It's quite big, so yeah, I'm going to just cover it in different textures, starting with this ball stylus and just moving it back and forth to give it some wrinkles, quite rough texture to begin with. For some reason I decided to texture this one before putting it on a base or a stand or something to hold on to, so I put on a glove to not ruin all of this with my fingerprints. I finished texturing this one and baked it before popping out the chopstick and filling the hole with some green stuff. But I kind of want to make a stand for it, and as this is the Sculptober challenge, or part of it, I'm of course not going to be able to film everything, as we are already way past halfway. I want to make like a stand for it that can also be its own sculpture. So I was thinking that maybe this hand thing can come out of a mouth. But if I want this to work as a sculpture on itself, I need it to be detailed and, interesting, and not just a hole in the ground. So instead of having texture around here, as I first thought and first put down, I think I want everything to be like a big lump of flesh. So I think I want to make it a bit more uneven and maybe have some tentacles or fingers sticking out on the side too. Alright, yeah, I'm definitely doing teeth because that's one of the most fun things to sculpt. And it's almost as creepy as fingernails, so it's going to be a good match with the hand. For some texture on the top of the teeth, I'm using the ball stylus and just randomly pushing it down and stippling it on the top. Alright, there I think we have it. 2 of the prompts turned into one sculpture, and when I cast it, it can be 2. The first thing I think about when I heard the word fairy is a tooth fairy. And I have this old pig's tooth from one of the skulls that I have. And yeah, I might integrate that into the piece in some way. I think I want a small, maybe sitting creature. So let's start out with the shape and the beginning of some legs, just to get a little bit of an idea where this is going. See if we can just do a little face, just to have something here. I might sculpt on top of this too, as I'm making a little skull. And yeah, a little bit of a twist in the body so that the torso is pointing along this leg and the head is looking the other direction. It's making it a little bit dynamic. Let's make this tooth fairy a little creepy and kind of starved. So going to not necessarily have the rib cage exposed, but yeah, have the ribs very visible. I have a couple of more teeth from the pig's bones. And this small one might work as a crown or something. I don't know, a stupid hat or crown. Kind of starting to like the face. I really went with some big teeth and weird wide eyes. I'm putting in some more details on the chest or the torso area. So here I'm putting down some ribs. I think this is as far as I can go on the tooth fairy before baking it and continuing in another layer, because yeah, there's just too many details on the chest area and around the face before I can add the arms and stuff. I don't want to mess that up before. So for now, I think I will just put this one aside and do another one. The next prompt is tempting, and I want to make a character from Scandinavian or Norwegian folklore called Huldra, which appears as a woman in the woods, but when I take a closer look, she's got a animal tail, and yeah, she lures people into the woods to eat them, I guess. So I think I'm just going to make someone in a dress and then add a tail, because I actually don't sculpt that many people. So I'm going to try to sculpt a regular-ish person. Now I'm just covering the green stuff in a layer of Super Sculpey. I haven't really waited for it to dry, which is something that I maybe should have done, but yeah, I don't have time for that. The legs should start about halfway up the body, I think, and then maybe this can be the head. I'm adding some more volume to the lower part of the dress. Wanted to be a little bit cone shaped and be bigger on the bottom, and yeah, just laying on the ground so that it's a bit too long. An unpractical dress that looks cool on a miniature. Maybe she needs a bit more volume here around the hips. I think I want this to be one piece dress, which is what the dress is. So yeah, then I kind of want the belt of it to be a little bit higher, as this was not very fashionable. Adding some wrinkles in the transition between the torso and the legs, or like the upper and the lower part of the dress. We'll cover this with a belt later, so that only like the tops and the bottoms of the wrinkles will be visible, and I think that's going to be a nice effect. As I haven't done an armature for the arms, I think I just want them to be like close to the body in some way. Guess this would be the wrist, and this is the hand. All right, after blending the shoulders into place, I think this is a good pose. Decent pose, at least. The arms might be too thick, so let's trim them down a little bit. When I trimmed the arm and the hand, it left me with a little bit of extra clay hanging down under here, but I think I'm just going to leave it, as it just looks like another layer for the dress. So a happy accident. As this is going to be a representation of Huldra, I need to add a tail. But what are tails if not single tentacles? So maybe I can do it in a different way. I have multiple tails coming out from under the skirt. But for now I think we're just doing the one. And then I will work more on the dress before deciding on what to actually do down here. I tried sculpting a face for her, which turned out pretty well, but now it's going to be very difficult to fix the transition between the head and the body. So I think I'm just going to add another layer of cloth around her neck. I ended up giving her a hood because I didn't want to sculpt hair. Alright, that's it for this one. I'm pretty happy with it. I don't sculpt that many human characters. Whenever I do, they turn out to be monsters, but this one looks very human-y, which is good. And the tail is there, so I can call it a Huldra, and we're done with this one. The next word is snack, and I think I'm going to create something that you can eat if you visit the weird place where this thing roams and plants look like this. So I'm going to make a very small finger snail, because I guess that's what you would have to hunt in this strange environment. Have a small nice looking snail shell here, which I like a lot because it's very pointy and it's got a lot of texture, which is going to look nice when painted or cast. I think I'm going for a more realistic or human hand than this, as it's going to be so small. It needs to be easier to read as a hand, so I'm going to give it 4 fingers and a thumb to start. I think this is going to be a left hand. That will look best with the position of the shell. I needed a bit more volume on the joint, so I put down the strip over the approximately the middle of each finger, and then I cut it so that I have a little lump of clay on the middle of each finger. I'm going to do the same for the knuckles. And there we have it, a nice little snack for any of the weird creatures that lives in the mutant marshes, if they can catch it. The next word on the list is camping. And the first thing that springs to mind is one of those cheesy 80s horror movies where teenagers sit around the campfire and then they get eaten by a monster one by one. So I'm going to make a monster, wood monster, or forest monster, which naturally is going to have its origin from space. So I'm actually just going to make a blob. There we are. No, I'm just kidding. I'll do a little bit more. Most important feature of a blob monster is the mouth. So I'm just going to start with some teeth, because I like sculpting quick and weird looking teeth. Maybe some teeth up here as well. Next step is adding some texture. I'm using this green stuff roller, which I made a while ago. This is just a lump of green stuff that I've poked a lot of holes in with this, or not this, but a smaller of this. And it works very well. It just instantly scales or weird alien skin texture. I think this is starting to look quite nice, but I want to do one last thing, and that's to give it some flaily tentacles. And I'm just quickly rolling the texture maker over it to tie it a little bit in with the rest. The blob monster from outer space, who for some reason is going to appear next to your campfire, is finished. The next word is uh-oh. And that's what you're going to say when you walk through the land of the fingers. So I think I'm just going to make another finger terrain piece. Just putting down a base shape first, something like this. Maybe I should make like a combination of the fingers and this one that I made earlier, which I have now baked, and yeah, fits nicely on the hand. Very pleased with this one. Anyway, maybe I should make like a combination of the two. So have a mouth on this one as well. I love sculpting fingernails because it just immediately turns a clay sausage into a finger. And also the folds under the joints. Maybe I should have a poor little person sticking out. Going to go back and forth on this one, I guess. Refining it until it looks like a person, but now I'm just marking out the features of the face. I got a bit carried away on this one and added, you know, another finger, worked some more on this person that's being eaten, and added a row of teeth. I like to make the gums in like a triangle shape so that the teeth are longest at the center. It's a little bit strange that the hand is lying perfectly by the teeth, so I'm moving some of them a little bit out. I'm going to go back and forth and refine this by adding textures here and there and make some of the details sharper, but I think I have an idea and a basic shape that I'm happy with. Also happy with the little creature or the little humanoid being eaten by the hand mouth. So yes, there we have it. Let's move over to the next one. The next prompt is gear, and I want to make a robot or a cyborg or something for this. I'm happy with this one that I did a couple of days ago, so I want to do the same approach, making a simple armature in the same height, and yeah, make a robed figure, but have it be a robot or a cyborg thing instead. Okay, let's mark out the halfway point, which is around here. So this is where the torso should meet the legs, or a little bit lower, the middle of the pelvis. So I guess like the pelvis starts a little bit higher around there. Then we should have shoulders and the head thereabout. Here I'm just turning the face into a quick hood because I think I want this to be a robed figure with some mechanical and fleshy parts sticking out. So it's going to be a cyborg wearing some kind of robe. And yeah, I'd never planned designs before I start to sketch it out directly in clay. But in a case like this, it would of course have been easier to have the armature taller, because now that I want a taller head, this part is going to be all flimsy. But it's not going to be too much of a problem, but it's something to think about if you know that you want to make this character or a character like it. Maybe a flat topped hat, like the wizard I made for my Caves and Creeps Kickstarter. This dragged piece of clay already looks like some kind of gas mask or something, a little bit of a triangle shape, so maybe that's something I can use. I think I want it to be a little bit asymmetrical, so let's give it 2 arms on one side and 1 arm on the other. And I think I want the arms to be pretty small, robed like the rest of the figure, but kind of ending in metallic clamps or something. I split the other arm in 2 to make it a bit more otherworldly and inhuman, but I kind of want them to stick out of the same robe or the same sleeve. So here I'm just connecting them by a piece of clay. Just splitting this arm into some sections to make it look more mechanical, trying to keep the edges quite sharp. I try to keep some areas very organic, like the robes and the pieces I want to be flesh, and then I try to flatten the pieces that I want to be metal, like metal plates. robot parts. So these teeth or whatever they are, I think they should be metal and displayed here, and then I added some under it too. I'm not sure what any of this is, I'm just adding flat surfaces. That looks cool, and yeah. Might change this later, add some cables or something, but it's good to work in layers. This one can be a very tiny claw. I think this is going to look good when painted, just having a strong contrast between the metal parts and the robes. I'm going to have to add a lot of little details here and there, but I think this one, the idea at least, is finished. So I'm going to leave it like this and move over to the next one. The final prompt for this challenge is farm, and I want to make a bigger piece for this one as it's the final one. I really like this piece that I made the other day, as it's like a mix between making a 28mm character and terrain and, you know, some nasty fingers, teeth, all the things that I like to do. So I think I'm going to do something similar, but having some farm animals being trapped in a similar thing instead. Maybe these just suddenly sprung from the ground and started eating a village. And yeah, that will be a fun scenario for an RPG setting. I'm going to have the mouth in the middle instead and have fingers surrounding it. And the mouth doesn't have to be completely round either. Alright, and then let's put in an animal that's being eaten. So, a horse maybe. Horse is a good farm animal. For this I should look up reference, but I'm going to try just to get the shape first and then do the details with reference, or yeah, change up the proportions a bit if I'm way off. Starting with a skull-ish shape, or, you know, horse. The jaw of a horse is very wide or very tall, a lot taller than one would think, so I need more mass down here. The front teeth are good to get in early, as they can indicate the rest of the skull. I'm going to go back and forth and refine this more and more. And I wanted the mouth to be open, I guess, since that's what just happened. Horses have kind of funny teeth because they have teeth in the middle and then they have like a gap before the front teeth. And I think that's the most important feature in a horse skull, actually, to make it read as a horse skull. Quite long neck, and then spine, and I guess this would be the rib cage, or the top of the rib cage. I refined this animal carcass a bit more, and I think it looks good. I'm not sure if it's a horse, but you know, it's a farm animal. Alright, I'm going to go for some small fingers on this one, and I will just start by making a little nugget and then bend it where I want the joint to be. And here I'm marking in the underside and the overside, so the joint and kind of the fold where the finger is folded. And I do all of this with just my fingers to begin with. And then I will put in a fingernail with just 4 quick pokes. Yeah, the finger is a little bit too long compared to the fingernail, so I can either just elongate the fingernail like this, or I can remove the lower part of the finger. I do both at times. So it's still a little bit weird at the angle, and then I can just scrape off a little bit underneath the nail, and it looks better already. There we have a quick finger, which is of course covered in fingerprints, but I'm going to smooth everything out and add textures all around. This is basically just a first step. So where to put the fingers, that looks like a good location. It's hovering a bit, so I'm just going to fill in the lower part with some lumps of clay. I was thinking about adding teeth, but I think I will skip it because, I don't know, this looks good as it is. Sometimes things can be too much. And with this being the final prompt for Sculptober 2022, the challenge is over. During the Sculptober challenge of 2022, I sculpted 16 traditional clay sculptures and 15 digital ones. If you want to have a closer look, then check out my Instagram accounts where I have pictures of all of them. I'm especially pleased with the finger terrain pieces that I created in this challenge. And this one's fun. The two-pieced one is going to be a cool addition to my mutant marshes and a fun little centerpiece for terrain. It can also be a monster, which is fun, and I like the fact that it fits so well in a snail shell. So I think I'm going to cast this one, or cast them separately, that's the plan, and glue some in shells. Maybe try some different colored resin and have them as some art pieces or something you can hang on your wall. I'm very pleased with these two, and one of the things that I like the most is that I put some creatures in there, which really sets the scale for the pieces and makes the fingers look huge. I baked the tooth fairy the other day and have started to blend the pieces together with some green stuff. Still needs arms, but I think this is a good start of a fun character. Two of the characters I like the most that I made during this challenge are these two, and it's mainly because of their scale. These two are actually 32mm scale miniatures and not monsters. My favorite sculpture of this challenge is actually this one, which is one of the quicker ones I made, but sometimes the sketch you make in 20 minutes is better than what you spend hours doing, because sometimes it's just fun to make something loose and relaxing. And I think this turned out to be a very fun and characterful little creature. That's it for this one. I hope you enjoyed watching me sculpt these weird things, and I will see you all in the next episode. Goodbye.